Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. So today we'll be talking about Bette Davis and her secret old Hollywood diet. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Bette Davis and a brief history. So Bette Davis was born on April 5th, 1908 and passed away on October 6th, 1989. She was an American actress with a career spanning over 60 years and 100 acting credits, and she is regarded as one of the greatest actresses in film history. She was noted for playing unsympathetic characters as well as famous performance in a range of film genres, contemporary crime, historical films, suspense, horror, and occasional comedies. She has received 2 Academy Awards and 10 nominations. So I found a few vintage magazine articles featuring Bette Davis's diet. And this article reveals what foods Bette Davis liked to cook for the people she loved. So a legend who is often called the First Lady of the American screen, Bette was largely known for her larger-than-life personality, longtime feud with Joan Crawford, and mesmerizing eyes. According to Modern Screen magazine, published in 1940, one of Bette's favorite foods was baked beans. Bette Davis not only loved to eat baked beans, she also shared the recipe she used to cook them for herself and her loved ones. Apparently, she once even had 21 pounds of beans flown in from Boston. The actress specifically wanted to serve them at a fancy Hollywood party. The recipe includes pea beans, fat salt pork, molasses, and dried mustard. For the step-by-step recipe, check out the Silver Screen Suppers blog. Bette Davis's Boston Baked Beans. So this recipe was featured in a 1940 Modern Screen magazine article about Bette Davis's favorite foods to make on the cook's night off. And there's also a similar newspaper article from 1940 stating that Bette Davis loved baked beans. So Bette Davis's Boston Baked Beans are 1 quart pea beans, 1/2 pound fat salt pork, 2 teaspoons salt, 1/2 cup molasses, 1 teaspoon dried mustard, and 1 cup boiling water. And Bette Davis was also known for her famous 3-minute egg that she loved to make for breakfast. Bette Davis's assistant wrote a book about their relationship, and here is a little bit about their relationship in the last decade of Bette Davis's life. Relationship from bad to better came down to one simple little thing, an egg. Bette's breakfast most always consisted of a 3-minute egg. The proper cooking of it was her limitless test as to the value of any good assistant's worth. There's not much to cooking a 3-minute egg. It involves a pan of boiling water, an egg still in its shell, and 3 minutes of simmering. But Bette added a twist to the simple test. How do you cook a 3-minute egg in a hotel room with no stove, no pots and pans, and no kitchen? Perplexed, Catherine had no idea until Bette motioned to the in-room coffee pot. Then hot water was brewed. The egg was placed in the glass coffee carafe, and the time was monitored on a wristwatch for 3 minutes exactly. In this small test of skill, it wasn't that Catherine failed to quickly and cleverly assess the options of impromptu cooking in a kitchenless room, but instead, it was the trainability of her actions that caught Bette's attention. And there were eggs, lots of eggs. Bette and Catherine traveled the world together and ate at many fine restaurants, but the food Bette would choose to make for herself or her family on days off was simple fare that went back to her New England roots. Homemade burgers, cucumber salad, Cornish game hen, wine spritzers, clam bakes, fresh berries with cold cream. Those are the foods that she liked to make. So I made a vintage-inspired breakfast with whole wheat toast with jam, as well as potatoes and 3-minute eggs, because Bette also loved kind of hash brown potatoes. And Bette Davis also loved split pea soup. So Bette Davis's recipe for split pea soup appeared in a cookbook published in 1933 entitled Famous Recipes by Famous People. Bette had only been in the movie business for a couple of years by this point, but was about to come to the critics' attention in her breakthrough film of human bondage. Perhaps Bette was eating on a budget before she was a hit, and you can't get much more budget dish than this. In the modern age, it seems you have to beg, borrow, or steal a ham bone, but I'll bet in 1933, no butcher would have been immune to Bette's charms. So the ingredients for the soup are 2 quarts cold water, 1.5 cups split peas, bone from ham, small piece of ham diced, 1 small onion, 2 stalks celery, 1 cup evaporated milk, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon pepper, 1 teaspoon chopped mint, fresh or dried, croutons to serve. Soak the peas overnight in cold water to cover. So 2 of Betty's favorite dishes are baked beans and split pea soup, and she also loved potatoes. And Betty said about potatoes, and Bette Davis says, I always adored them more than caviar. For years I was called Spuds. So one of Bette Davis's favorite desserts is called Apple Brown Betty, and it's a bit of berry with plain old apple and with granola. So it's kind of like a blackberry and apple crumble baked in the oven. And it is also known that Bette Davis would drink a glass of water every hour, so she was constantly staying hydrated with water. And I also found one of Bette Davis's original red flannel hash recipes, and this is a recipe that she loved to eat for breakfast every day, and it was one of her favorite things with the 3-minute eggs. So her hash contains 2 cups corned beef, 3 cups cold boiled potatoes, and 1.5 cups cooked beets. And she says to chop all the ingredients, season and moisten with cream, put in a hot buttered ironware frying pan, stir and spread evenly, brown slowly over medium heat, served with poached egg on top. I thought that was interesting. I've never had a hash with corned beef before. That sounds interesting, and with beets. I don't know if this is just a vintage hash recipe from New England, but let me know if you've heard of this, because I've never heard of a hash with that in it. So it was really interesting researching Bette Davis's diet. Again, it's one of those vintage diets that you probably wouldn't see nowadays. When you look at movie stars nowadays, they're definitely not eating, you know, baked beans or ham split pea soup or this insane corned beef hash brown. I also found some recipes for this weird looking mustard ring that she made. It kind of looks like a jello mold, but it's like mustard. It's like a weird ring shape with vegetables in it. I thought that was interesting too. So I mean, obviously her diet is from a different generation. A lot of these dishes aren't popular today, but it's definitely interesting to see, I don't know, how simple things were, how she just always wanted the same egg for breakfast, 3-minute egg, and with the hash and toast. So it was definitely interesting to find out that. I do like baked beans, but I'm not a fan of them with like the pork in them. For this video, I ended up getting some in a can. I think they're like Heinz baked beans. And then I got some split pea soup in a can as well. But it would definitely be interesting to try making some of her recipes. But her diet isn't too shocking compared to some other old Hollywood actresses. It seems like she wasn't that into extreme weight loss or doing anything extreme. It seemed like she just enjoyed food, but I have a feeling she did smoke a lot and definitely drank a lot too. So she's kind of similar to Joan Crawford in that Joan Crawford drank a lot. But anyways, yeah, she just didn't seem like that extreme compared to someone like Elizabeth Taylor, who really took things to the next level with some of her extreme dieting later in life. But it's definitely interesting to research Bette Davis because she's such a legend in old Hollywood, and it was really cool to find some of these recipes and old articles and interviews from the 1940s online. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you try any of these recipes and who you want me to do next. All right, I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.